All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If everyone could take their seats, try to stay on time today. Wonderful. So hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Samedy Bates. I'm a program officer in the Obstetric and Pediatric Pharmacology and Therapeutics branch. I'm going to say OPPTB from now on because that's a mouthful. I am also the program officer for the Clinical Pharmacology Training Network, and that's what I'll be talking about this morning. Or is it still this morning? Still morning. So first, I really want to thank MPRINT and the organizers of this meeting for the opportunity to sort of speak about this topic. I'm super passionate about training, and as I can tell over the last couple of days, I can see that you are too. So really looking forward to the discussion after this presentation. So the training network was formed in response to the Best Pharmaceuticals Act. It was a legislative mandate requiring pediatric clinical pharmacologists to be included in the current NIH career development programs. The network was originally formed in 2011 by OPPTB with the idea that we should be preparing individuals to conduct impactful research and also preparing them for a really solid career as young investigators. So the purpose of our training program is really to ensure that we have a diverse and highly trained workforce in the clinical pharmacology space, specifically pediatrics. As I mentioned, the network was formed in 2011, and then originally it was a co-fund. So NICHD partnered with NIGMS as well as NIMH to include all pediatric pharmacology fellows. For those who are unaware, we are transitioning to a NICHD only funded network. And that's not to say that partnerships aren't possible in the future. I'm just sharing with you the current direction of the network. So we have the sites listed here on this map. You'll see in blue, we have our existing T32 sites. In this sort of pink magenta, we have our new K-12 sites. And then I also want to share with you in the yellow, our affiliated sites. And these are sites that aren't specifically officially, clinical pharmacology programs, but they have been really invested in the network and they're really active in the network. One thing I learned the other day, which I was pretty proud of, is that we have several fellows that participate in the network from sites not on this map that are from other institutes. So it tells me that Captain is having probably a bigger impact than we originally envisioned. So really proud of that. I want to share with you what the current network is comprised of. So here you have some of the components that make up the Captain. Our goal is really to provide a comprehensive training experience. I think what makes our network particularly unique is that we have the ability to connect sites, connect fellows, connect mentors across the United States via our virtual network. I think while COVID probably wasn't the best thing that happened, I can tell you that it had strengthened our network. We're using a lot of virtual options, much more than we had in the past. One of our, I guess what would be our most outward-facing component is our lecture series. The lecture series was specifically designed to meet the needs of pharmacology fellows who didn't necessarily have the pharmacology background or access to the clinical pharmacology didactic and curriculum. So in addition to these didactic sessions, what we have done is include some fellow-only workshops, just topics that are specific to our fellows. And the goal of this is really to promote active engagement with their fellow peers, cultivate new collaborations, and perhaps leverage resources of other sites within the network. As you can see, we're pretty big on team science and fostering collaborations within the network, but we've now sort of moved outside to hopefully encourage those collaborations outside of the network. And as I mentioned, just all these components work together so that way we are fostering a more comprehensive training experience. So I wanted to share some of what the network offers and the expectations. We get the question, how do we do it, right? How do we have all these sites come together? We are, I should backtrack a little bit. This network, again, is more virtual than it is. This is not an established network. The network is not funded. The programs are funded, right? So everyone asks, how are we able to have these sites come together and create this really solid network? One of the things we do when a site comes on board is they agree to participate in Captain in its current state and as the program expands. We brought on this new K-12 program, and all the PIs agreed that the K-12 would run in parallel. They would interface with the T32 sites, again, to create a really solid network. We all also encourage program participants to include sort of an intent to engage with institutions that historically have not had programs with a clinical pharmacology program. And this is hopefully to cast a wider net of, trainees, to cast a wider net and potential mentors that we can bring on board. The other thing I wanted to mention is our network offerings. I think that's something we also try to highlight when we are bringing sites on board in the network. There was a good comment yesterday about not duplicating efforts. And I think that's one thing that Captain tries to avoid, duplicating efforts. What we think of, we try to serve as a bridge or a way to expose our fellows to opportunities that are already existing, right? We don't try to recreate the wheel. So we really encourage our fellows to seek additional experiences like the FDA summer internship. We encourage fellows to seek out maybe other clinical experiences, perhaps partnering with PTN or with the MPRINT Hub. Another offering we have is our Fellows Flash newsletter, which is published monthly. It has highlights of the network, things that are ongoing, anything new that is of interest to our fellows. Most recently, our fellows asked for job postings, so we've included that in our fellow newsflash. And then also we provide links and opportunities. A way to pursue other didactic opportunities. For those who don't know, NIH provides a Principles of Clinical Pharmacology course, which is open to all fellows. So we make sure that if there's any fellows that are interested in that sort of thing, we kind of direct them there. Again, we do not recreate the wheel. We just sort of shepherd our fellows to the right place. I do want to share with you some of our network highlights, things that have happened in the last couple of years. So we hold a network annual meeting during the pandemic, it has been completely virtual. We are moving into that hybrid space, and I'm really excited that it's moving back into in person, just because I feel like fellows have better experience when they can, meet and talk in person. The annual meeting is more so for an opportunity for fellows to share their work, see what other fellows are doing, perhaps gain some experience from the other mentors that are there. We do have an NICHD orientation meeting that we started last year, and this came from a need to sort of help the fellows kickstart their training experience. One of the feedback we received was that fellows felt like they weren't comfortable until the end of their fellowship. And I figured, how could we help the fellows? So we provide this orientation about who's who at NICHD, how we can, who do you speak to, things that you should be thinking of in your fellowship career earlier on. Again, so to really enhance the training experiences. 2 years is not a long time. So we want to make sure that they're using that time wisely and effectively. As I mentioned, we do have this enhanced lecture series. I'm, again, really proud of this. We provide fellow-centric workshops. These topics come from the fellows and things that we're hearing. So, you know, and they're closed to the public, fellows only. But we have topics like, you know, how do we navigate the LRP, the loan repayment program application? You know, one of the other topics we had was talking about how balancing your clinical and research duties. We received some feedback about having a workshop about balancing professional and personal duties, you know, for those that have children, how do they navigate that space? So really interesting topics for the workshop. Those I think that will benefit the trainee more personally. As I mentioned, we have our new K-12 extension. We have 2 sites right now, and at each site, we have 2 appointed scholars. So that should be kicking off this summer. As I mentioned on the previous slide about the inclusion of other fellows, we do have we do have a K-99 awardee that participates in the network as of recently, and we have an F-31 and an F-32 awardee, and these are pre and postdocs. One thing I don't know if other networks do this, but we have an alumni network. And one thing I can say is the alumni are really passionate about giving back to the fellows. They are really active. Anything we ask of them, they're willing to participate. So one thing we do pride ourselves on is having fellows or graduates, whether they're recent or, you know, further along, they do still participate within the network. And then to sort of speed this along, we do, again, foster some foster opportunities for fellows to network and collaborate. And then we do foster those partnerships with other networks. I thought this would be a good opportunity to mention funding, some other funding opportunities. I know the big theme is money and that programs need more money. Well, I can't do anything for you in that space. However, I can provide you with some other opportunities that might be of interest. So, you know, we are moving to the parent T32. So I do have that up here with the deadline coming up in the next couple of days. But just to make you all aware, there are opportunities for an F32 or F31, and these are individual pre-doc and postdoc fellowships. So, you know, this could help to supplement any programs that are ongoing. If you have any T32 fellows that are sort of finishing in the T32 space, they could perhaps, barring that there's enough time, but they can move into this F32 space. I do want to highlight our R25 programs. These are, they typically include up undergrad to professional levels. Not sure if these accommodate high school students, but this is just a way to sort of supplement any of the training programs by providing exposure to individuals who may not necessarily have clin pharm background, but now have an interest. So I wanted to provide these funding opportunities here for you all to take a look at and perhaps pursue. Just share a little bit about what's next. As I mentioned I think I've mentioned this in our PregLac meeting. I've mentioned this in several workshops as well as our annual meeting next year, but we still have plans to expand into the maternal pharmacology space. Our hope is that we can sort of leverage the pediatric program and have sort of a maternal pharmacology program running in parallel. These are hopes of ours. I don't know. I can't tell you when exactly this will sort of kick off. However, I can say that maternal pharmacology is a priority of the Institute. So if there are any interested parties that would like to develop a T32 in the maternal pharmacology space, that would be wonderful. Well, with respect to time, I did have some thoughts for discussion, and perhaps we can take a look at these during the panel discussion. But I really wanted us to think about how we maximize training experiences. You know, what can we do to increase the impact that we're having, despite maybe, you know, maintaining the resources that we have. You know, what are some strategies to diversify training experiences? What are some barriers, right? Let's think about those, and perhaps maybe we can think about where training needs to move to, and how do we shift towards this vision. And this discussion is not just for the PIs, this is also for the trainees, right? As you've been going through your experiences, what are things that you would have liked to see, right? What are things that you're hoping to see? That helps us really think about training holistically. And with that, I will thank you for your time, and I will see you all at the panel. So next.